have a guest joining us today, or not. This is Mabel. She is just over a year old now and extremely goofy. Anyway, hi, welcome to another reading vlog. It is officially spring, so this is going to be a little spring reading vlog. Although of course I live in New England, so while it's getting a little bit warmer, there aren't a lot of leaves on the trees yet or anything like that. But I'm so happy to get some sunlight after this long winter. And yet another guest. This is Zuko, and I'm afraid he does look like a black blob in most photos. It's so hard taking pictures of black cats. They're just little sweet shadows. He is our gentle, polite gentleman. He's much more demure than Mabel. Mabel's a little bit crazy. She is, after all, orange, but yeah, happy spring, and I have some really good books lined up. I have two here, but there are three that I want to read next. The one I just started is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This, of course, is a thriller, and I think it's set at a summer camp. I think it's like 3 girls go missing one summer, leaving just one girl alone to grow up always wondering what became of them. I've read a few Riley Sager books now, and to be honest, I haven't been overly impressed by any of them. I read Home Before Dark. Oh god, there was something in a hotel, and I can't remember the name of that one. And then I read The House Across the Lake. I think that's what it was called. I think my favorite was Home Before Dark, and my least favorite was definitely The House Across the Lake. That one I just thought was a little bit cliche, and while I haven't loved any of them, I have enjoyed reading all of them. In general, I find thrillers and mysteries just really entertaining, quick reads. And next is a horror by Darcy Coates. This is The Haunting of Lee Harker. I think Lee has lived in this house for a while, and then all of a sudden overnight it becomes haunted, which is definitely different from the other kind of books Darcy Coates has written. I've read a lot of them because she writes a lot of haunted house novels, and that is my favorite trope. I love horror in all of its subgenres with movies and books, but my favorite is always going to be a classic ghost story. And I do have a third book, but I need to go pick it up from the library tomorrow. It's very different from these two. It's Remarkably Bright Creatures. That's a general fiction book that came out, I think, last year maybe, but don't quote me on it. So yeah, those are the next 3 books lined up and ready to go. I'm so excited to read all of these. Obviously, they're all very different vibes. I think Remarkably Bright Creatures is supposed to be very heartwarming and introspective, whereas obviously these are more scary and thrilling. And on that note, I'm gonna stop rambling and actually go make some chocolate chip muffins. My boyfriend got buttermilk at the store last week so I could make lemon pound cake, which was absolutely delicious, if I may say so myself. And we need to use up the rest of the buttermilk, so chocolate chip muffins are an easy and scrumptious way to do that. Alrighty, I am home from work just in time to finish the last, I don't know, 35 pages of this book. Thrillers and mysteries are really quick reads for me because I just want to get to the reveals. I have to know what happened. So I was reading this today during my lunch break, and when I had to leave with only 30 pages left, yeah, killed me. It's right in the midst of the action and the big reveals, so I'm so excited to finish this. And I haven't updated at all since I started this, again, just because I kind of dove in and just read it all, but basically we are at a summer camp. We're following a character named Emma, and when she was 13, she attended this summer camp for only 2 weeks before her 3 cabin bunkmates went missing. They seemingly vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. We get a few flashbacks of those times, but the main story is following her 15 years after the fact. She ends up returning to the camp as it reopens to teach art. And of course, she has an ulterior motive of finding out what really happened to her friends. I will say this is probably one of my favorite Riley Sager books yet. I really like the summer camp setting and vibes. And I can't say much because there are 30 pages left, but I will say that none of the reveals so far have come out of left field. I feel like there's a good trail leading up to them, and it still might surprise you, but it seems believable, which I can't really say about some of his other books that I've read so far. I also like our main character, Emma. I will say that I think she has a little bit more personality than some of Riley Sager's other protagonists. That's been one of my main sort of criticisms about his books, is that I don't really think any of the main characters, or side characters especially, have any distinct personality or, well, character. I mean, they're all basically interchangeable, and I mean, not that Emma stands out that much, but I think she has a lot more presence than some of his other characters, and she has actual interests and hobbies and things, which is more than I could say for some of his other books. But yeah, let's crack this open and finish it. Okie dokie, by the terrible lighting, I'm sure you can assume it is a few hours later. It's now nighttime. I'm in my jammies, ready for bed. And if you hear any noise, that is my boyfriend playing video games in the next room. Anyway, I did indeed finish The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, and I think this is probably my favorite of his books that I've read so far. And I remembered the titles of the ones I've read. I've read Home Before Dark, I've read Lock Every Door, and The House Across the Lake. That being said, I wouldn't say that this blew me away or that it's a new favorite mystery of mine. Anyway, let's talk about the things I liked first. Like I said before, I really enjoyed this summer camp setting and vibe. It's a classic horror movie setting for a reason, and I do think it was effectively creepy. There are, of course, the 3 girls who went missing, but there are also, local legends about, the rich family who owns the land in the camp, who made the lake. There are sort of ghost stories about the lake, which I thought were really fun and added a nice sort of eerie sensation. I also think that the mystery in this book was pretty well paced and believable. For me, all the other Riley Sager books I've read haven't been that believable when it came to their twists. This one was still surprising and there were some fun twists in here, but they actually felt, I don't know if I could say realistic when it comes to a thriller, but they felt possible. Whereas with some of his other books, like Home Before Dark, the ending kind of ruined that one for me. But on to the things I didn't like as much. I think in general, for me with Riley Sager, it's pretty obvious that he's a male author writing not only for a female audience, but writing all female protagonists. Which obviously isn't bad, but you can just tell that he's not a woman when he's writing about sort of like their lives and experiences. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly like weird or gross or egregious, it's just obvious. Like in this book, there is a scene where Emma as a 13-year-old gets her first period at the camp. And again, it wasn't weird or anything, it just didn't seem like a 13-year-old's normal reaction to that kind of scenario. You know, she clearly says that she knows what's going on, she knows what a period is, you know, she just needs a little help and advice, so she sort of like goes up to her bunkmate Vivian and asks her for help. But instead of just saying like, oh, you know, I got my period, I don't know what to do, this is my first period, because she clearly says she knows what it is. You know, it's not like she was one of those poor souls who was never told. She literally just, she's like, I'm bleeding. And she's like, no, I'm bleeding down there, like between my legs. And I'm like, a 13-year-old girl who like went through sex ed and literally says in the book that she knows what a period is would not be like, I'm bleeding between my, like, come on. It just felt very Carrie, you know. And I do think it's really funny that Riley Sager is actually a man named Todd. You know, it's just pretty intentional, obviously, on his and the publisher's part to, I don't want to say pretend to be a female author, but they kind of try to, you know, insinuate or be gender neutral, right? Because obviously the main audience for thriller and mysteries are women. And women tend to like books written by other women. So Riley Sager, aka Todd, you know, assumed this name that while it is gender neutral, I feel like Riley is more commonly a name for women. And there's no author picture, and literally all of his main characters are women, except I think from the most recent book he just published. It was really obvious, especially in this book, when it came to Vivian as a character. She is one of the girls who went missing. And she just really reads like a grown man's impression, or dare I say like wet dream, of a teenage girl. And I also found the way that Emma interacted with the like young teenage campers to be a little strange. It was almost like she was treating them as peers or friends when she's like 28 and I think the oldest one was like 16. I was like, no, those are children. We don't talk to them like they're our friends. Mabel, what are you doing? Also, I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but there is an instance where Emma forgives a character at the end of the book, or essentially says like, you have nothing to be sorry for, you never did anything wrong. And I'm like, girl, where have you been the whole book? Because she definitely did some stuff wrong, stuff that I personally would find pretty unforgivable. I mean, overall, I would say, like all of Riley Sager's books, I find them really enjoyable and entertaining, and I do think this one was more well crafted than some of his other books, but they never blow me away. It's a fun thriller, again, has a really cool setting, but I wouldn't say it's a favorite. Yeah, and those are my thoughts on The Last Time I Lied. Now, I have to go to bed soonish, but I think before I do, I'm gonna dive into The Haunting of Lee Harker. I'm excited to dive into this. Again, I love a classic ghost haunted house story. And I'm definitely in the mood for it, especially following The Last Time I Lied, which had some of those ghost camp vibes. The mug I got in Japan. It is just a Starbucks mug, but I thought it was so cute. It's not gonna focus. Maybe if I hide my face. I just loved all of the icons and the colors. It's so cute, and it's blush pink on the inside. Plus it came in a box, so I was pretty confident that it would survive the trip back home. I think I'm gonna be boring and say my favorites are just the cat and Mount Fuji, because obviously I love cats, and I did get engaged in front of Mount Fuji, so I mean. But anyway, we are not here to talk about my mug, we're here to talk about my book. Once again, I've basically waited to update until I'm so close to the end. Like I said before, I feel like I just kind of eat up mysteries and horror novels because there's so much tension and the stakes are high, there's so much action and all these reveals that I struggle to put these down. I kind of just inhale them, whether or not they're good even. A lot of times I just want to know if I'm right and if I can like solve the mystery before the big reveal at the end. Also, when it comes to Darcy Coates' books, I found that she ends a lot of her chapters on cliffhangers, which makes it really hard to stop at any point in this book. Unfortunately, again, I found myself in the position of having to stop with 20, not even, I think 18 pages left during my lunch break at work. Yep, 18 pages. That is all I have left in this book. But when your lunch break ends, your lunch break ends. So it was very unfortunate. I can't believe that happened to me twice this week. All that to say, I am so excited to dive back in and finish this book. I actually can't say too much more about the story beyond what's on the back of the book because there is a pretty big like plot twist reveal around 100 pages in. So everything from there I can't describe. Basically, yeah, we follow Lee Harker, and she suddenly notices one day that her house seems haunted despite the fact that it hasn't been this way in the past 15 years she's lived there. All of a sudden, she notices this creepy monster figure stalking her in her home at night, and there's this door underneath the stairs that has never been able to be opened. It's always been locked, and suddenly she's very fearful of it and she's hearing it rattle. Like someone is trying to open the door from the inside. Otherwise, Lee has a really normal life. She's a homebody. She keeps her head down. She goes to work. She comes home. She's really, really into her routine, which I can definitely relate to. I'm an introvert, but I would say she's like almost a hermit, that kind of level of introvert. Honestly, there are a lot of similarities between all of Darcy Coates' books in the sense that most of her main characters tend to be kind of introverted people who don't have a lot of friends or family. I guess that just makes it easier for them to be stuck in situations like this in haunted houses. But I have really grown to like Lee, and there is another character who you meet in a bit named Sarah. She's like this little old lady, and I absolutely love her. I will say ultimately I am really enjoying this book. You know, all these things that Lee is experiencing are totally terrifying. I enjoyed the twist about 100 pages in that I mentioned before. It really does change up the dynamic of the book, but in a good way. It sort of allows the book to differentiate itself from a classic haunted house story and stand out amongst Darcy Coates' other works. And of course, the house is becoming increasingly more and more terrifying as time goes on. The only thing I will say is that it does seem a little bit slow. You know, there's a chunk in the middle where I feel like we're kind of stuck in the same portion and events are kind of repeating and we're not making that much progress. Obviously, I'm very close to the end now and things are escalating quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish this book, and then I will tell you my final thoughts on The Haunting of Lee Harker. I finished The Haunting of Lee Harker, and this was actually quite the heartwarming book. It wasn't what I expected going in. Obviously, this is a haunted house ghost story, but I really liked the bond between Sarah and Lee, and the ending I just felt like it was satisfying but also really sweet. I think I've pretty much said everything when I talked about it earlier, but I did really like this book. I thought some of the twists were fun, although to be fair, they are not twists that haven't been done before. If you are someone who's going to get annoyed at seeing a big reveal that is something you've seen in other horror movies or books before, you probably wouldn't like this. But you know what, sometimes those twists are good and classic for a reason, and I thought that Darcy Coates went somewhere a little bit different with this story, something a little like cozier and more mysterious than some of the other content I've seen with similar tropes. Also, those first, I don't know, like 100 pages before the twist aren't my favorite. They're a little bit slow and meandering, and some of the things that Lee is doing don't make a lot of sense until the twist. So you might find yourself frustrated with her and with the story, but you know, I would say just push through if you feel that way until the twist. And if you didn't like the twist, then it's probably not the book for you, but personally, I still enjoyed it. So I'd probably give it like 3.75, 4 stars. I really liked it. I wouldn't say it's something that blew me away, but I had a good time. But yeah, that is the second book for this video done already. Happy Saturday. If I suddenly have a little bit of a lisp, that is because I have crest whitening strips on. Anyway, it is a beautiful Saturday morning. It is truly a gorgeous spring day. My fiance and I are gonna go take a walk around a really cute area, but I'm gonna do my makeup first. And I do have some updates. So I started Remarkably Bright Creatures yesterday. I don't know, like 70 pages in or something. And it's safe to say that I am absolutely loving it. I like fiction, like general fiction, but I definitely don't read it as much as I do fantasy and horror and stuff like that. But this one has really rave reviews, and so far I can totally see why. Anyway, Remarkably Bright Creatures is set in the Pacific Northwest on the ocean. We follow a few different characters like Tova. Tova is this little old lady who works at the aquarium cleaning after it closes. One night, she finds that the octopus had escaped his tank and gotten tangled in all of these power cords, so she rescues him, and I think it sort of begins this little unlikely friendship between the two. Because yes, we are getting chapters from the octopus's point of view. His name is Marcellus, and yes, I am emotionally attached to him. I mean, I feel pretty attached to all the characters already, but I am gonna be so upset if that octopus dies. He's highly intelligent and really cute, and he just likes to sneak out of his like little aquarium at night to go into the other parts of the aquarium and eat snacks. But of course, at the beginning of the book, he mentions that the average lifespan of his like breed is only 4 years, and he's very close to 4 years old. So if this octopus dies, I am going to be so upset. Anyway, that's not all that's going on. It is a very sort of, I don't want to say slice of life, but kind of everyday, mundane, character-driven story so far. Like I said, we have Tova, and years and years ago, Tova's son at 18 went missing, and all they found was this boat floating in the bay, or like out in the ocean. Everyone believes that he ended his own life, but Tova's never, ever believed that. So yes, I do think that this octopus is going to somehow help her, like, reach closure with that scenario. We've also had a few chapters from Cam's point of view. Cameron is kind of a loser. Like, he's 30 and he cannot keep a job. Like, he just keeps getting fired, and it's all his own fault. Like, he keeps showing up late and stuff like that. His friends are all kind of moving on in their lives, and he's definitely starting to feel left behind. Yeah, but like I said, it seems to be a very character-driven story. I am very into, like I said, Marcellus, of course. Like, I just love that we have an octopus character in this book. It's not like some magical realism thing. He is just a very intelligent creature, and we sometimes get a chapter from his perspective. You know, living life in the aquarium. It seems to me so far that Tova works at the aquarium not out of financial need, but really because working and continuing to have this routine and this job helps distract her from the trauma of losing not only her son when he went missing, but her husband then later died of cancer. Cameron I'm not as interested in so far, just because again he's a bit of a loser, but we'll see. I'm sure he'll have some sort of redeeming character arc. Alrighty, mascara is on. I don't have lipstick on. Usually I wait to put that on until after I get dressed, so that way I don't like smear it all over my shirt when I'm putting it on. Anyway, I'm gonna go get dressed and I will probably get some cute clips of the beautiful spring day. So I actually finished Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and I really liked this. I feel like I've had quite the successful run of a few books in a row. Like I was saying before, I was so emotionally attached to the octopus Marcellus from page 1. He's like our wise little mentor character, kind of like our Gandalf for this book. I love the friendship that he develops with Tova, and honestly, I want more books in any genre told from the perspective of like a little old lady. I've had enough with these like 17-year-olds. Give me grown adult or even elderly characters, please. Their friendship is just so sweet. Even though they obviously can't talk to each other, they kind of understand each other and bring solace to one another in a way no one else can. You know, Tova is at this kind of tough stage in life where she has to figure out what the rest of her life is going to look like. She doesn't have any family or living children to care for her in her older years. But she doesn't want to be a burden to her friends, as dear as they are, and I definitely really understand that. And she's always been the kind of sort of slightly private, very steadfast woman who likes to keep herself busy as a coping mechanism. I really loved her as a character. I loved all of her relationships with everyone, not just Marcellus. And if you can hear that, yeah, that's my boyfriend playing video games. But yeah, like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of Cameron. He's our third perspective. He's 30 and he's basically a man-child. I will say, I mean, it's fairly realistic in a sense, and in ways I understand why he's like this. But I was hoping for a little bit of a bigger character arc. He definitely grows and matures in this novel, which thank God, because this man does not take accountability for anything and just feels like he's entitled to jobs and things without, you know, any work towards them. I really enjoy like where he ends up at the end of this book, but I do feel like maybe his character growth could have been a little stronger. But yeah, like I said, Tova and Marcellus are amazing, as well as some of these side characters like Ethan. He is so smitten with Tova, and he is a local who owns the grocery store. I love their little dynamic. He's so respectful and patient with her, and I just had a really good time with this book. The ending made me tear up just like a little bit, and that takes a lot for me. I was really happy with everyone's journeys and where they ended up. This is a very character-driven story. It's not at all like a mystery or a like action-packed, plot-focused novel. But yeah, my favorite character was by far Marcellus. As much as I love Tova, like I love him. He's the best. He's so intelligent, and he's always like, humans are just They're just so dumb sometimes. This was such a heartwarming read. I had such a good time. I don't know if Shelby Van Pelt has written anything else, but I would definitely be curious to check it out. So yeah, I would probably give this like a 4, maybe 4.25 out of 5 stars. I think I would have liked it even more if, again, I liked Cameron a little bit better.